Oh yeah, good.
Hey everyone, this is Andy Hall. You're watching The Best Advice Ever, where pretty awesome people come on and talk about the best advice they ever got. Today, we have Mr. The Rage, or maybe just Mr. Rage, who runs his channel called The Rage. Am I not mistaken, sir?
Yes.
So a lot of you may recognize him from the Daily Atheist Morning Show. He's co-host with me with Chris Mallard. And that's my phone going off, and that's not right at all. From Quakertown, Pennsylvania. I know no one there. Mr. Rage, for people who don't know about your channel, what's it all about? What do you do over there?
Well, I make atheist content for atheists, and I have conversations that tend to devolve into dumpster fires. I like to pursue conversations with Christians and try to lay out the bare nuts of the conversation for them. So yeah, we have a lot of fun, and I spend way too much time on YouTube.
Well, whenever you're bearing nuts on YouTube, I think that's pretty dangerous, you know?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to just lay it all out for the Christians so they can see you in the greatness of your humanity.
So the way that because I've only seen your channel a couple of times, and it seems to be what basically it devolves down to you making a point and then them insulting you. And there's some kind of roast battle that goes on after that.
Yeah. A lot of my, I guess, struggles openly with Christians, it tends to fall on the issue of morality and what makes a good moral human being. And I try to show that despite character flaws that every human being has, and embracing mine and being honest with it, that I can out moral the moralists. And it usually ends up coming down to that.
Interesting. Well, this is a great place to pivot to the best advice you ever got.
Yes, well, it kind of relates. My dad always told me nobody likes a liar. So I've always, in my adulthood, have tried to live by that and make that my code and the very basis of my creed. And my I've talked about a code system that I have, and the honor that I try to keep is be 100% honest, even if that honesty is going to make me look bad. So that's the best advice that I ever got, was just don't be a liar. Stand on your integrity, and if you do that, you will succeed, and people will trust what you say. And it's helped me here on YouTube exponentially, and it's kind of what I've based the Rage off of. Yeah, I'm the raging atheist. I'll go off, but I'm always honest, and I'm going to give you the real me and not some fake rendition.
That's great, because you see people on YouTube and it seems as if they are working some kind of character, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, I agree with that. And I think several of them have kind of admitted to that. So, the Amazing Atheist was great and genuine for a long time, and then he became this character, and he's admitted to that. And he's like, he pretty much hates what he does now. Cult of Dusty was another one. He was a character. And now that he's more of his real self, a lot of people that used to watch him back then don't like watching him now. So yeah, that's why I've always tried to be honest and just open. I have people right now trying to track down everything about me. They've tracked down old addresses. They know my whole real name, my middle name, everything. They're, trying to track, did this guy do this? Like he said, and all they're going to find is that I'm very truthful. So I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, I mean, they try so hard. It's kind of funny.
Right. So, Yo Natural Atheist says last night was hilarious and shocking on the Rage channel.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I Smokey Saint comes onto my channel last night and gets himself a good victory. Gets me and one of my best friends, John Peterson, fighting with each other about moderation. And should have taken that victory. I mean, take that victory. Me and John worked it out. I mean, I was only mad for about 20 minutes, but I was mad. Right. And we worked it out really quickly, and he should have taken that victory, but he chose not to. He chose to come back on. And yes, it was shocking. I never would have expected what happened to have happened. But I'm glad it did. And Smokey Saint is triggered about it this morning. I was just arguing with him right up until I came into the backstage here because he is so triggered about last night.
That's crazy, dude. So tell me about your dad. Was your dad always honest with you?
No. It was kind of the hypocritical thing about it. I'd say he was as honest as he should have been, But he did a lot of things, you know, said we didn't have money when we did, and you know, a lot of things that just weren't all that honest. And he's not even really honest now, because we have this like struggle about my atheism and being open about it. And he's far more Christian than he ever was back then. Far more now. Deeply Southern Baptist now. Hates my atheism. And I'm like, well, Dad, you know, he says that he raised us to be Christians, and he did, but he didn't. And I'm like, Dad, you never forced us to go to church that much. You know, that was my mom's side of the family that would force us to go to church. That's how I got church experience. But my dad was a workaholic. Like, so it's just the dishonesty, and they don't even see it. But I don't. He just ingrained it in me so much. You know, like he would always go around saying, I hate liars. I don't like people that lie. And now he's a Trumper. Yeah. So it kind of blows my mind.
Yeah. How do you square that circle between saying that, you know, honesty is so important to you, and then turning around and voting and supporting probably one of the biggest liars in American history? And I don't think that's hyperbole when I say that.
Yeah, and I brought that up to him, and it led to us. We're pretty much not talking right now, and he wants to try to mend that bridge, and I should let him, because he's getting older, and I don't want to miss out on any opportunities I have with my dad. But at the same time, this is how you raised me. This is like the core fundamental of who I am now, and you don't appreciate it about me, and you've blatantly just went the opposite direction as you've gotten older. And yeah, it led to a huge fight between the two of us.
That sucks. Tell me when being honest worked out well for you, unexpectedly well.
All the time. Like, so I've always been honest about my channel, on my channel. I've talked about like things that I've done that was really bad in the past, you know, going to prison, and I've never ran away from those things. So now that I have come out with my real identity, because I'm writing a book, and I don't want to publish that book under The Rage or The Raging Atheist or even Nakasuchi. I want it to be my real name, and I want it to be something that I can put on my bookshelf and say, hey, that's mine. So I came out with my real identity, and you know, if they go back and find that now, hey, you know, he was in prison, what a bad person. No, I've talked about that several times. I've been honest about that. But in my interactions with Christians specifically, it's how I win the battles with them, because they're always disingenuous. They're always end up lying about something. So all I have to do is just consistently be honest, and I win. And I win quite often, not all the time. Right, but pretty often.
Well, no one's going to bat 1,000, right? And you know what I find interesting is that there are many Christians in history who have had really rough early lives, right? Their first act have been, you know, in trouble, not acting in a Christian way whatsoever, and then they turn it around. To blame you for having a rough time, I think, is deeply hypocritical.
Well, yeah, and they don't understand the context of it, because I also talk like I grew up in privilege, you know, like we weren't poor, like my mom's side of the family was, but my dad moved us to North Carolina to get us away from that, and he was not a poor man. He just told us we didn't have money when we did, and compared to the people around us, I guess, you know, we weren't super rich like they were, but he wasn't poor. And I grew up in one of the richest areas in North Carolina, surrounded by rich white people. You know, so it's like two sides of the story. Like I represent it accurately. No, I came from this place of privilege, and I messed up, mainly because I had put all my hopes and dreams into sports. I'm a very big dude, 6'5". I was going to be a basketball player. And when that was taken away from me in the 11th grade, my life descended into this spiral of destruction, and it happens to a lot of people. So for it to happen, and for me to actually come out of that, shows strength. I broke that cycle. I redeemed myself and became a better human being as I progressed through life. And so they can't understand how it actually, it just shows my fortitude and shows how much stronger that I am than a lot of other people.
You know, what's the book about? Is it autobiographical? Is it like a memoir?
Yeah, it's going to be about coming into atheism, the long journey through the several different, through Christianity at first, and then going to, you know, more spiritual aspects, Buddhism, Native American spirituality. I'm going to end with Taoism, and then how I became the raging atheist. You know, how I went from that to 13, 14 years later being on YouTube yelling at Christians, so it's I've got it all mapped out, and I've actually started writing it now. So I'm hoping within 6 months to have it done and in the editing process so I can get it published.
Excellent. That sounds very similar to a lot of other atheists. We started off being fundamentalists, and then we tried to find a more liberal version of Christianity, hoping that will work out. That doesn't work out. So, I went through a Buddhist, I played around with Buddhism as well as Taoism. And finally, here I am on YouTube talking to you. Another raving.
And the Christians think that it's such a unique story, and I'm like, no, because it just happened a few minutes ago, and they were making fun of it, and I'm like, no, this happened. This is like the journey for a lot of atheists. It's not all of them. No, some, not all atheists journeyed out of religion at all. So but for a lot of us, we tried different things. We try to fill that hole that was there at first because we were raised to believe that there was a God in there. And it wasn't, so you're trying to replace it with something else.
Right. All right. So you talked about having a code for morality, and obviously being honest is one of the pillars of that. What are some other aspects?
Like I'll stay true to my word, and I will stay true to myself, even at the cost of relationships. So if we're friends, and we cross swords, I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt of being my friend. I live by my code. I literally live by my code, and I'm going to defend my position. If you prove me wrong, it might take me a few days, but I can usually see how you're right and I'm wrong, and I can change myself. But usually I'm going to be really, really stubborn, and it can lead to the destruction of relationships. It has my whole life. I stand for the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. People don't want to hear it. And I always try to stand for that truth. So that's part of the code. The other part of the code is to be a transparent father, to be the opposite kind of parent than what I had growing up. Try it a different way. I don't believe in spanking. I don't believe in physical abuse of children. I try not to yell. I fail, but I try not to yell. So a lot of that's all centered into it. And then I'm in the face of adversity. I will never fold. I will never back down. That's probably the main thing. And a lot of people don't like that. They want me to kind of bend and say, hey, you should just go along to get along. It's not really me. It's not really me.
Right. So, as you said, you're a dad. I have two kids. I have an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old. One of the things, and I try to be as honest as possible when my kids were younger, and probably a lot of people would say a little bit too honest. Yeah. And what I struggled with is trying to figure out where my kids are cognitively and emotionally, and to put the truth to them and to package the truth so that they would understand it without terrifying them.
Real quick, Andy, this might be my doctor. So let me see who's calling me.
All right, dude. No worries about that. Hope everyone's doing well there in the chat. Paul is saying that his dad told him right's right and wrong's nobody's right. My dad told me right's right and wrong's nobody's right. Yeah. It is a constant struggle to try to be honest and to work in a way that you don't undermine your own set of principles. That's something I think we all struggle with to some extent.
Yeah, that was my doctor confirming my virtual visit tomorrow. But no, I agree. Like I try to be 100% honest and truthful with my daughter about the reality of the world and the reality of her family situation. But I do it in a way based on what I think she can take and what, her cognitive level is. So, I'm not going to feed her a bunch of information that's going to overwhelm her or try to stress her out. But I want her to understand just the reality. So, she still believes in God. I allow my mom to take her to church. But at the same time, I'm not dishonest about being an atheist. I mean, you can see it right up there. She hears it. So I try to be as honest with her as I possibly can. And I'm hoping that translates to her teenage years and knowing that I'm honest and knowing that she can come and be honest with me. will hopefully help guide us through some of the mistakes that I made as a teenager. Because I didn't feel like I could go to my parents and talk to them about what was going on.
Oh, I'm with you with that, brother. I felt like I had to pretty much navigate a lot of that stuff on my own, or with the help of my friends, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. It was the friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were just muddling through it as poorly as I was.
Yeah. And I feel like, if I felt like I could have went to my dad, or even my stepmom, with some of the things that I was doing, and really saw, hey, please help me out of here, instead of being punished or admonished for making mistakes that you're going to make as a teenager, that it would have went a long way. So I'm trying to establish that with my daughter, and I hope that it works out. I hope it doesn't backfire. But I think that from the models of parenting that I've looked at, that this is the best way of the best model that I've been able to find.
Now, here it is. Do you find your kid being honest around her peers in ways that you think to yourself, well, that's interesting?
Yeah, I do. She's very honest and open and loving. And like, there's been times where I've thought about, like, I don't want you being honest about me, but I have to just let her do it and be herself. And then, because one of my biggest fears is if her peers find out that her dad's an atheist or a YouTube atheist, that she could be picked on or lose friendships over that. So I'm like, part of me just wants to, no, don't ever talk about daddy's atheism at school, but I don't. I follow the model, and I'm just, I want her to be honest. And yeah, I have seen her just be blatantly honest with people, and I'm like, yes, it's working. So.
I always told my kids, it's like, you can, be prepared. Be prepared, because if you tell people you're an atheist, or you start talking about unpopular views, that could easily get you. There will be repercussions one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people are still Christian now, and unfortunately, they still have these beliefs. And the moment they hear atheist or you don't believe in a God, then they judge you for that, and they put up that wall, and it's harder for them to get to know you as a human being at that point.
Right. And I'll have to tell you, a lot of Christians don't realize or think that they're Christians until they actually encounter an atheist, and then they decide to act in the most unchristian-like ways.
Yeah, that's the story of a lot of my family members. I've often said, like, a lot of my family, we have our super religious in the family. Fundamentals despise what I do, but then we have just the normal Christians, as I call them, because they'll drink, they'll smoke weed. They barely ever go to church sometimes, but not really if they can get out of it. But yeah, the moment that I'm an atheist, it's super Christian time, and we believe in God, and I'm like, no, you don't.
Right. Well, if you can tell the tree by the fruit that it bears, then you, my friends, are not Christians.
Yeah, it's like, you don't, if you don't believe in the God enough to actually follow his rules, then I don't really think like you really believe. You say you believe, but you don't really believe, or you be following the damn rules.
Right. I don't talk about this that often, but my oldest was bullied in high school. He had a cyberbullied. He had a fake Instagram account made for him. He had his pictures photoshopped, and the name of the Instagram account was his name -atheist. So it was clear that they were riffing on him and cyberbullying him due to the fact that he was an atheist. And we had to bring it to the school. There was a whole thing. We didn't have to sue anybody. We live in a rather liberal state, but there are risks. There are definitely risks proclaiming that you're an atheist when you're a kid in high school or in middle school, or any age for that matter.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still use like a super old email account, because it's like literally the only one that I don't have linked to what I do here on social media. It's an AOL account that I give to the school, because it's the only one that I use, and I don't want them to link it. I don't want them to judge my daughter because I don't believe in the God that they believe in. Right now, we have a great relationship. I'm truly scared that if they found out the truth and came across me on YouTube one day, that they might take that out on her. Yeah. And hopefully not, but it's a real possibility.
True enough, it is. Natural Atheist says, I've had that talk with my kids. You're free to speak, but there are consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've had that talk with mine already as well. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not gonna stop you from being truthful, but there are consequences to the truth.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You see that in society. You can't have a civil conversation about truth, a political conversation in this country anymore, not unless you're speaking to your own.
Okay, so we talked about being honest online and how it helps us in our family lives, where it can be problematical, to say the least.
Yeah.
I have found that being honest in like normal 9 to 5 work situations, it can be difficult.
Yes. I'm lucky in like the job that I have now. Everybody kind of accepts me for me, and they just, I don't really have to hide it from my coworkers. I have to hide it from customers and all of that. And it's kind of hard to do with this like tattoo that just, decries it to everybody the moment they see it. But yeah, I'm really lucky that I have a job now that accepts me, and I can actually be honest with the people, and I can joke around with them. I joke with the Christians all the time. There's this one 17-year-old girl. She's a Christian, and I fuck with her nonstop. It's so funny, and she eats it up, and actually really likes me. Like most normal Christians, once they get to know you, they're not going to keep judging you, and unfortunately, you don't get that on the internet so much. I mean, it's a war here, but in real life, it's really, once you get to know them, you can joke around with them, mess around with them. But I've worked in jobs where I couldn't do that, and I've worked in jobs where I was fired for that tattoo.
No, really?
Not directly, but they found a reason because hey, we can't trust this guy. He's an atheist.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I'm 6 foot tall. You just said that you're 6'5", which I had no, we do this all the time. I had no idea. My head's bigger than yours in the screen here. But I had no idea you're 6'5". I imagine that people are less likely to, in person, to confront you angrily about your atheism because you're a big guy.
Yeah, it has happened. And it usually happens with women, though. Yeah, I don't think I've ever really had a run-in with a dude. But women, and strong in their faith, so I give them credit for it, will see that and comment on it. I had one woman. I mean, it resulted in me getting fired because we had a big argument about it. And I'm like, look, you're a Christian. You can wear your cross. I can have this tattoo. It's fine. It's, don't look at it if you don't like it. And it led to me getting fired. I had another woman that she saw it and she took off her shirt just so I could see the angel wing tattoo that she had on her back. And then she started asking me questions. So, I mean, with dudes, yeah, I think it's more of a, hey, that's a big motherfucker. I ain't gonna start shit,
Right.
to where they don't care. They're strong in their faith. The women are, and they'll come right up to me and like, what is that?
You got to respect those women, though. I mean,
yeah.
Crazy way that they're willing to throw down.
Yeah, I always do. It's like, yeah, you go, girl. That more power to you.
And the thing is, at least they're talking to you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I find that if a person starts talking to me, give me 5 minutes and maybe I can make you smile and maybe lighten up the situation. Maybe I can pull you over at least a little bit over to my way of thinking.
Well, yeah, and it's why the whole story of my life is basically I had to live in the closet because none of the Christians wanted to talk to me or answer the questions that I had. So it's why, for 13, 14 years, I stayed silent. I went on YouTube and I just started screaming and yelling. For the first year, it was videos that were just the most offensive videos I can make against Christianity. And it's all because nobody would sit there and talk to me about it. It could be because of my size, because I am very big and intimidating, but not just that. I'm smarter than most of them. And,
Right.
and so it's like they're intimidated and they don't want to be made to look stupid, or made to question their faith, which I think is another large part of it. And my thing is always like, if you truly believe in this and you have 100% faith and you think that this is real, then why wouldn't you want to be put in those situations? Why wouldn't you want to defend that? But they never did. And it was pretty much just be quiet. Don't talk about that. I wasn't allowed to talk, even if, like, say politics was brought up. Somebody else brought politics up. I couldn't. No, you're not allowed. You just stay over there and be quiet. And I got tired of it. And I came online and I started yelling.
Oh, right. So you talked about within the first year doing a lot of offensive videos. What would you say if you could say? Well, you know, I mean, what was the most offensive video do you think you did? Like the title. What was it about?
I used to do these Earl videos. I would pretend to be a redneck Southern Christian, and I would just make offensive, racist comments, derogatory, misogynist comments. I had a Cult Bunny series for about a year, to where it was, you know, I was saying that Christianity was using women that looked attractive and trying to sell sex through that. So I called them cult bunnies, and I was super offensive and misogynist. I used to make claims like, you know, religion is a mental illness. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of claims like that in my first year, and I would go on and I would just insult Christian, and I still insult Christianity. I've got a Bible is Stupid series right now that Christians just really, really hate it, because I just look at the verses and I laugh, and it's so funny.
So I have to ask you, were there any Christians who just happened to stumble on your video when you were taking on one of these characters, saying horrible things as, you know, this Christian character, and they didn't realize it was a joke?
Oh yeah. It's one of the reasons why I stopped doing it. Because some lefties were coming in and they thought it was real, and then Christians were thinking it was real, and I was like, no, it's I stopped doing it. It's too offensive, and people are taking it too seriously. I could put satire in the description. I could have satire blinking on the screen, and they were still taking it seriously. So despite the people that follow me liking it, I stopped doing it.
Yeah, you find a lot of guys who are doing satire, like Dave Chappelle back in the day with his, you know, Chappelle Show, or even Colbert. It was something they had to wrestle with, the idea that people not realizing it's a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke. Oh, I still get that. They don't know. A lot of Christians don't quite. They just take it way too seriously. So even if you're joking, they're taking you're instead of being offended by the joke, they take it seriously and they get offended in that manner. So it's been a struggle. You know, I gotta remember, when I'm having the conversations, I have to try to stay serious, because the moment I start joking, it's above them. They don't get it. You know.
Fascinating. No, I can understand that, because my general rule of thumb is, if I can't be funny, then I'll be serious, or I'll be honest, or, you know, I'll be sincere. That's the word I'm looking for. If I can't be funny, I'll be sincere. So yeah.
I've always had a really weird sense of humor anyway, so I always understand it when people don't get that.
Oh, this is a case of you not understanding the words coming out of my mouth. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Happens all the time.
Yeah. So, dude, this has been a great conversation. I think the idea about being honest has paid off quite well for you.
I think so too. And I think I'm going to be streaming all day, because I got so much stuff to cover. So much stuff to cover. But yet, honesty, people, I think the best thing that you can do as an atheist, it's not be nice. It's not try to toe a social line, or try to be this or try to be that. The best thing you can do as an atheist, if you're going to be on YouTube, is just be honest about who you are. Yeah. Because your humanity will shine through and win every time.
I think so. You know, Carl Rogers, the humanist psychologist, had this idea about being radically honest with people without being a dick. You know, it's possible to do. It's difficult. It's like threading a needle, but it is possible. It is something that I'm trying to get better at too, because you don't have to be a dick just to be honest. And a lot of times when you're being a dick, that honesty isn't getting through, because they just see you being a dick. So I'm trying to work on that myself. Yeah, it's a heavy lift. Dude, where can people find you online? The Rage, formerly known as The Raging Atheist, but The Rage channel. I'll be streaming at 3:00 with CJ Cox, a Christian, and we're going to have an interesting conversation. It got hot last night, and I'm sure it's going to continue into today. So well, Mr. Rage, thanks for coming on the channel. This has been a great conversation. And, you know, I learned a lot about you. And when we co-host on Chris's show, I think understanding you will help me make more crappy jokes. Well, I aim to help. So thanks for having me on, Andy. This was a lot of fun. Hey, thanks everyone in the chat. This has been a lot of fun, guys. Bye. Take care.